Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Wednesday, September 28th. So we have the moon in Scorpio all day. This is very deep, very intense, very passionate, very transformative. We are looking to be emotionally engaged with our relationships, with our experiences. We tend to be a little bit passionate, a little bit intense with those passions, and a little bit overwhelming when it comes to actually expressing our feelings to other people or just experiencing the feelings rushing in within ourselves. Keep in mind that the moon in Scorpio is the detective energy of the zodiac, which means that we are moving deep within ourselves to flip the unturned stones over and see what kind of hidden emotions, hidden thoughts, hidden memories we can unearth, of course, all in an attempt to piece things together to understand where it is that we have to move out of our own way if we want to create a new situation. Of course, the transformation that has to take place in our realms needs to take place in our psyche and in our heart space first and foremost before we're able to actually engage the physical body. Like I had mentioned yesterday, the moon in Scorpio is kind of a precursor to Scorpio season, to showing us what the eclipse energy in Scorpio season is going to bring us as well. And because we are still very much in this retrograde season, the reflection, the recalibration, the realignment, the restructuring, the reorganizing of our inner realm is definitely going to be noticeable and be felt under the moon in Scorpio. So this is also the very last day that Venus, our goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure and money, will be in Virgo energy. She is preparing to take her rightful place, to take her throne, to step into her place of comfort and power in Libra energy, which will take place here tomorrow. If you haven't listened to that astro forecast, I'm going to recommend you do so, give you a little bit more of an in-depth overview on what we can expect for Venus's time in her place of power in Libran energy. But we got to get through the final degrees of Virgo energy first. And anytime that we are entering into the realm of the final degrees of any sign with any planet moving through any energy, we have this crisis point. We have this critical point where there's, an intense, overwhelming need and desire to wrap this chapter up, to learn the lessons. And Venus in Virgo was bringing us a lesson on where we have to be a little bit more logical and practical and down to earth and taking care of ourselves first and foremost before extending our power, our energy to everyone else. And of course, if you need to go back and listen to Venus in Virgo astro forecast to kind of remind yourself of what this particular life lesson was supposed to be and what it means for you, by all means, go ahead and do so. So today is actually a very busy day in the cosmos. There's 14 different aspects. 14 aspects is a little bit much. And so we are going to be feeling that a little bit of craziness, a little bit of intensity, if you will. Out of the 14 aspects, we have 9 of them involving the moon in Scorpio. So the very first thing we get kicking off is the moon in Scorpio making an interaction with Jupiter, the planet of growth, improvement, abundance, and blessings, who is currently retrograde in Aries energy. And this is kind of a reflective time because we're in a retrograde anyways, with all of these planets. Again, we have 6 planets in a retrograde. This is a reflective time, taking us back to April and May and some of the personal challenges and obstacles and roadblocks that we've been facing since then in trying to reinvent ourselves, trying to initiate brand new chapters and beginnings, how successful we've been in doing that, and maybe how unsuccessful we've been doing in that as well. Now, Jupiter wants to magnify everything, turn the volume all the way up on our thoughts and feelings. And the moon in Scorpio is very intense and passionate and overwhelming as it is. So we do have to expect that we're dabbling in the shadow aspects of the Scorpio energy, because that is where our truest power is. We have to look at the pain, the suffering, the trauma. We have to look at the failures. We have to look at the disappointments because that teaches us our greatest lesson. And right now, there's a huge magnifying glass on where it is that we may be feeling some of these darker elements in our emotions and in our thoughts in order for us to pluck out those silver linings to see where it is that we had to learn a valuable life lesson out of those situations. And of course, we can flip it around, turn that pain into power, turn that darkness into light, and use that as inspiration and motivation for us to get our asses in gear and come up with a different strategy, a different plan to see the kind of changes, the kind of beginnings, the kind of new chapters that we were hoping for. Of course, we're not in a position to take action at this time. This is just an inner realignment between our heart and our head by reflecting back on some of the hardships that we've had to encounter since the spring and what it is that maybe we would do differently if we had the chance to redo. Now, that doesn't mean that we get stuck in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. That means that we use this as a learning opportunity for growth, for improvement, for changing our belief systems, for understanding that there's a valuable lesson even in our weakest days, our greatest challenge, our toughest life lessons. Mars goes ahead and trines Saturn. Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio energy, of course, Pluto being the primary ruler. We have the god of war and the god of the underworld ruling over Scorpio energy, and that's why so many people dread Scorpio energy. But we have Mars, the ruler of our physical energy, our drive, the way that we go after our passions, our desires, even our anger, who is in Gemini energy on the battlefield of the intellect right now, trining, getting along with, working with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, ruling over our roles and responsibilities, who is currently retrograde in Aquarius energy. What we are gaining from this is a brand new perspective on where it is that new boundaries are going to be needed in our lives, and where new discipline and determination is going to be needed in our lives if we are going to build a brand new foundation in our lives for the new dreams, the new goals, the new vision to be built upon. Saturn's retrograde in Aquarian energy should be showing us where it is that boundaries are needed in between doing what is right for us and doing what is right for other people. Doing what we want, need, and desire versus sacrificing all that to do what we think is expected of us by other people, by the community, by our family, by the group, by the collective. Again, where has that gotten us? So Mars, who is really motivated, truly inspired right now in this Gemini energy to align with a certain path, decision, choice, we are leaning into really being inspired and determined and motivated to boss up, to do what we need to do, to communicate what it is that needs to be said in certain roles and responsibilities with other people in order for us to take our power back and create enough space for us to honor ourselves first and foremost, while still doing our commitments and our obligations to other people. Now, keep in mind, Mercury is still retrograde, which means that if we do take the action to truly express our thoughts and our ideas and our emotions to other people, that it may not be well received or understood in the way that we were hoping, because miscommunications and misunderstandings are still at an all-time high. But we're very much getting a reality check. Like there's a heaviness, a weight, a reality check with Saturn's energy. So it's almost like we know what we need to do. We know where we need to boss up. We know where we have to let go of certain, roles and responsibilities that we committed to in the past in order to free ourselves up to do what is right by us. So it's almost like we're a little bit fired up. We are ready to communicate and take action to start building a different foundation in our lives where we can do right by us and stop putting what we want, need, and desire on the back burner to make everyone else happy. Now, the moon is going to go ahead and interact with Mars shortly after in a very awkward way that is going to suggest that there's a lot of anger and frustration, a lot of irritability, if you will, coming up for us. And I think a lot of that is coming up because we are looking at all the times in the past that we failed to do good by ourselves. I think that when we get motivated and determined and we are hell-bent on making changes in our lives, and we are motivated and inspired to push ourselves ahead to create new foundations, it's just a natural thing to accept the, I guess, shortcomings or disappointments in our life that has created this tension in our lives to create the transformation that we're currently set out to pursue. But because this moon in Scorpio is, taking us on a journey into the shadow realm of our emotions and ideas and memories, I really do just feel like this is an obsessive reflection, if you will, that we get caught up in and kind of beat ourselves up about over all the times that we didn't do right by ourselves, and that we dimmed our own light to make other people shine, and that we sacrificed what was going to make us happy to do what we thought other people expected of us. And we still ended up either disappointing them or not doing things good enough or failing to, really truly meet their expectations. And that can be very frustrating, and it can trigger a lot of anger. And, Mars right now in this Gemini energy, we're having a lot of negative narratives, a lot of negative thoughts. There's a lot of realizations right now on where, we've repressed a lot of anger and frustration, where we've bit our tongue on that, because of course the Gemini energy is all about communication, and Mars, being the god of war, being in Gemini energy right now, yields a sword of a sharp tongue. That is our weapon of choice at this time. We have to be very careful that when these not so nice thoughts and feelings come up in us, that we're still able to use a filter and bite our tongue so that we're not making more of a mess of our lives, of our relationships, by projecting that anger, frustration, and irritability onto the people that we love. The moon does bump into the sun in a way that would suggest that we are at a crossroads. We're at a choice point. This is like a learning opportunity for us. Of course, the moon represents our heart, our soul, our intuition, our emotions, and very much the past. While the sun, currently in Libran energy, shining a bright light on where it is that we want balance, we want stability, we want peace, we want harmony. And the sun tends to show us what it is that we need to do in the here and now in order to set ourselves up for all of the things that we want, need, and desire. So when the moon and the sun get together, it's literally like we are stuck in this present moment, looking back upon our experiences, looking back upon our attachments, on our pain, our trauma, our shadow realm, and all of the things that have happened to us. And realizing where that has created, instability in our lives, and where we haven't made peace with certain circumstances, and where there isn't a state of harmony going on in our lives that, of course, the sun in Libra wants us to achieve. And what we're left with the moon highlighting the past and the sun highlighting the future, is the present moment in the here and now, where we have some healing to do, where we have some choices to make on how to process these thoughts and emotions that are very heavy, very dark, keeping us in a repetitive pattern of paralysis, technically speaking, and where it is that we have to let go of some of this energy in order for us to at least try to make peace with certain circumstances, try to achieve balance, try to make harmony in our lives. So we are going to kind of be torn into two. And what's left is a sliver of the present moment where we get to decide what it is that we're willing to let go of in order to have the space, time, and energy and attention in order to embrace the qualities and characteristics that we actively want to work towards, which of course are the Libran energy qualities and characteristics. We have Venus in Virgo at the final degrees of Virgo. So here's some pressure, right? We want to figure things out. We want to wrap things up. We want to bring things to life. We want new systems, new structures, new routines in our lives to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves just as much and equally as we are taking care of other people. Bumping into the true note in a way that would suggest that we're a little bit confused on what we actually need to do to bring some of these plans to life. The true node is our soul's path, our destiny's point. It's the path that we need to be on to get to our soul's potential. And Venus right now, very focused on her own worth, her own value within the relationship with herself. And then, of course, secondary to that, the relationship with other people. And then her long-term wants, needs, and desires. And bumping into the true node in this way would suggest that we've had some realizations. We know what we want. We know what we need. We know what we desire. We know what we have to do. We know what we should do. But as far as like implementing those plans, we don't know what the next step is. And that can create a little bit of disappointment, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of intensity, which of course we're expecting to feel with Venus being at the final degrees of Virgo energy anyways. There's this urgency to figure it all out, to take action, make moves to solve the problems. And again, Rome was not built overnight, and we will not make the changes and transformations that we know we need to make overnight either. The moon goes ahead and awkwardly interacts with Neptune. So Neptune is retrograde in its place of power in Pisces energy, which is a water on water. The moon in Scorpio is water on water. What we have here is a lot of water. And what we know about water is that it's highly emotional, super intuitive, and highly transformative. Water can go from a liquid to a gas to a solid. It's only one of the elements that we have in the elemental energy equation that can take on multiple forms. And in order for a true transformation to take place within us, we have to transform our emotions. So a topic may have us over emotional and we're weepy, we're crying. That's the liquid state. We could get so up in our heads, so obsessed with the past, with our thoughts, that we turn that into steam, angered. That turns into a gas. Or we could deny our feelings altogether. We could numb, we could get frozen and turn ourselves into an emotional ice cube, which of course is rigid. There's no fluidity. There's no transformation when we're just a hard block of ice. So what we can expect when we have this much water energy interacting in such a way that isn't one of the most positive aspects that it could be interacting in is that we're going to have a lot of, I'm going to say, darker themes, darker topics, darker memories come up that are super overwhelming for us. That's going to make us want to numb. That's going to make us want to run, want to hide. Now, Neptune being retrograde in Pisces is the escape artist of the zodiac. We don't want to deal with life. We want to live in la la land. We want to numb. We don't want to be overwhelmed with emotion. We don't want to pick up on any other energies other than our energy. And sometimes even then our energy is just garbage. So we want to run from ourselves. And the moon in Scorpio is all about going to the depths of our heart, of our soul, of our memories, of our psyche, to unearth some of the elements that we have been ignoring, that we've been trying to numb, that we have essentially frozen in time, because those are the elements written in our unconscious selves that are keeping us stuck in a damaging pattern and behavior, or keeping us stuck in a cycle of paralysis where we're not able to take any action other than repeating the same patterns and behaviors that we've always done. And what we know to be true is if we continue to do what we've always done, then we're only ever going to get what it is we've already got. We have to do something new. We have to break the mold. We have to write the program. We have to escape from our comfort zone and put ourselves out there in a different way, transform into a different form of ourselves if we are going to expect to see a different result. The moon helps us out big time by bumping into Jupiter again, but this time it's a super, super helpful interaction. So what we know to be true is that sitting in this earlier funk that we just went through, we sat in the darkness, we overturned some rocks, we took a look at where it is that we've been running from, some thoughts, some emotions, some memories, some parts of ourselves. And by sitting in that darkness, by going to the depths of our heart and soul that haven't felt so good, that we wanted to run from, that we wanted to numb, but that we sat with, that we just had a huge epiphany, that we just shifted our whole emotional and mental perspective. And Jupiter, of course, is about growth. So he's magnifying these realizations that we just had, what we just unearthed, what we just uncovered, what we just discovered about ourselves. And now we can see ourselves from a different lens. And we can see what it is that we need to do to break free of the patterns and behaviors that we've always done in order to get a different result. So not only is there a huge amount of growth, not only are we making a huge amount of improvement and progress in the emotional transformation and emotional healing that we need to do while the moon is in Scorpio, but we are essentially changing our belief system about ourselves, about what is possible for us in the future if we were just to free ourselves from the restrictions and constructs that our shadow self has had us stuck in. And we do that by overturning one shadow element at a time and not running from it, not trying to berate it or compartmentalize it. The power that we need to stand in is by acknowledging and then integrating the ugliest, darkest parts of ourselves. And that is what the moon in Scorpio specializes in. That's what Scorpio energy specializes in, period. So emotionally speaking, we're making a lot of headway here. And from that comes a bigger, greater, grander picture on what it is that we need to do from here. The moon goes ahead in semi-squares, which is a little bit of a tension point, with Mercury, who is currently retrograde in its place of power in the final degrees of Virgo energy. And what is great is that Scorpio energy and Virgo energy, they both like to analyze. They both like to pick apart the psyche. They both want to know why we act a certain way, why we are a certain way, what we're supposed to do from here. The Virgo energy wants to zoom in on the details of how it is, like what it is that's broken and how it is that we can fix it. And the Scorpio energy is here to push us into the darkest parts of ourselves in order for us to analyze it right to death and turn that pain into power, turn that darkness into light. So the Virgo energy is an earth energy ruled over by the mental plane, by Mercury. And the Scorpio energy is a water energy, an emotionally intuitive energy ruled over by the god of the underworld, the shadow realm, Mr. Pluto, and the god of war, Mr. Mars. And so we have this warrior type spirit that gets triggered and activated in us to figure it out, to find the problem. Let's fix it. Let's heal it. Let's cut it up into a million different pieces so that it can never reshape and reform itself so that we can move on. And so the moon being our heart space, Mercury being our head space, a semi-square, which means that we're in a disagreement because our heart and our head is not getting along right now. They're not in alignment. They're not on the same page. There's this huge pressure, this huge tension for us to figure out why we feel this way, why we think this way. What is the problem? What are we hung up on? What are we obsessive about? We have to ask ourselves those questions in order to come up with the answers. And when we come up with the answers, we can solve them, we can fix them. But there is this tension point, this uncomfortability that is currently needed for us to sit with ourselves to examine why it is that we feel the way we do, why it is that we think the way we do, and why they're so far apart. Why are we on different pages here? What can we do to get back on the same page, to get an agreement between our heart and our head so that we can move on from here? So this is essentially us dissecting our emotions and our thoughts. And it comes at a very interesting time, because at 4:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Jupiter semi-squaring Uranus. So Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, and abundance. Uranus is the great awakener who brings shock and unexpected events in order for us to change and adapt and open up to new ways of living, new ways of life. Both are retrograde. Jupiter is retrograde in Aries energy, a fire energy, very focused on the changes and the transformation needed that we've been going through since the spring, where our ego and our identity is concerned, facing some very tough, love, hard challenges in life, obstacles in life, on trying to begin something new, to initiate something new, to open up a brand new cycle, season, and chapter. While Uranus is retrograde in Taurus energy, really showing us in our inner realm what it is that we're overly attached to here in this physical realm, what it is that we have a fear of losing. So whether that is our possessions, whether that is a person in our relationship, a title at our job. We have to look at the physical realm of the here and now that we live in and what we would be absolutely terrified to lose and destroyed. What it is that if we were to be stripped of our physical possessions and our relationships, what it is that we wouldn't know who it is that we currently are. Now, this is a tough aspect. This is the second of 3 aspects that Jupiter and Uranus are going to make. The first one that we had is back in May 11th to be specific. So maybe you need to take a time out and just reflect on what was going on back around May 11th, because this is a continuation of those topics and themes. And we will not have a conclusion or a resolution to this particular cycle until December 23rd, when they have their third and final interaction. So what we get here is this want, need, and desire to grow, to move on, to improve our lives, to innovate, to progress in our lives. But here's the thing. We're so unfocused. We don't know what the direction is. The want, the need, the desire is there, but we have no strategy. We have no plan. We have no direction. We have no clue on how to actually grow, on how to implement the changes that we know we need to make, on how to improve or innovate or progress in our lives to get to where it is that we desire to be. We have no clue how to do that right now because we're unfocused. We have all these planets in a retrograde. They will be coming out of a retrograde one by one. As they come out of a retrograde, we will be gaining clarity on how to formulate the correct plan and strategy in order to accomplish the growth and the improvement that we currently desire to make. But right now, we're finding it hard to find stability, to find clarity, to find common ground within ourselves and within our personal relationships. We are challenged in our own inner realm agreement. Like our heart and our head is not on the same page. There's a huge gap between these two. Like we just experienced that with an earlier aspect between the moon and Mercury. And we are at odds with ourselves, and therefore we are amplifying the differences in our personal relationships where it is that we're at odds with other people. We're finding it hard to be in agreement with anything right now. And this is just part of the process, but at the same time, Jupiter likes to magnify everything that we're currently experiencing, thinking, and feeling. And right now, this is like an anxiety. This is like a restlessness. This is like ants in our pants. Like we feel the urgency, the impulse to take action, to make a move. We want to grow from here. We want to better our lives. We want to, start building the bridge that's going to get us from where it is that we're at to where it is that we want to be. But we have no building material. We have no plans on how to build the bridge. We don't have a place to build the bridge. We don't know how big the bridge needs to be, how strong it needs to be. We don't know how many people are going to be walking over this bridge. We have a lot of details that we haven't sorted out yet. So the restlessness, the anxiety, the impulse that we have to take action, to make moves, to just better ourselves is going to lead to a lot of frustration and disappointment because we can't do anything right now. We're blocked. The universe does not support us in taking the actions in the physical realm that we need to take to make these moves. We need to be stuck in our inner realm, formulating a strategy, a plan, looking at all the calculated moves so that we're wasting no time, wasting no energy, that we are, getting everything that we need in alignment, put in order, so that when we're given the green light go ahead to act on some of these moves, we're going to have a plan. We're going to have a strategy. We're going to have the building materials there. We're going to have the help. We're going to have a crew. We're going to know what the bridge needs to look like, how big it's going to be, where it needs to be set up, where it's going to span, and how many people it plans to hold. But right now, we're just in the planning process, and we're very unfocused on what the details need to be in order to actually bring this sucker to life. We will be figuring it out as we move forward. And again, we will see closure to this particular energy and aspect around December 23rd. So moving on from that, we have the moon making a positive interaction with Mars. Again, it's co-ruler, which means that this frustration, this restlessness, this anxiety that we just determined that, this Jupiter and Uranus energy is creating in us, this is motivating us to get our shit together, to get a plan together, to get focused, to find the direction, to find the details, to find the crew, to find the building list, to find the material list, all of that good stuff. And, Mars is in the mental plane of the Gemini energy. So the wheels are just turning. We're motivated. We're putting the blinders on so that we can try to be focused and make up for the lack of focus that we're currently experiencing. We're really trying to formulate a plan. We're trying to examine what needs to change and transform first and foremost in order for us to see the bigger, greater, grander vision being broken down into manageable pieces. The moon opposes the true node, though. The true node is over in the Taurus energy, sitting on the Taurus and Scorpio axis, which means that the moon is sitting right next to the south node of the moon, which is in Scorpio, and sitting across from and opposing the true node the north node, I should say, in Taurus energy. We will have another eclipse season in October that, will be activating this particular axis. But right now we are kind of stuck. We are in the land of no time, right? We are essentially in the middle of realizing what it is that we need to build towards, what it is we need to move towards, what it is that we need to start planning as far as the dreams, the vision, the goal goes. That's the true node, the north node in Taurus. What do we need to build? What it is that we need to create? What it is we need to bring to life? But we're stuck in the past with the south node in Scorpio. What we're hooked up on, what we're having a hard time making peace with, what we're having a hard time letting go, what we're currently allowing to block us from actually moving on, making progress, moving forward. There's a lot. And what we're stuck in between is where it is that we're coming from, where it is that we want to go, and where it is that we are currently at. And the power and the control that we either have or don't have in the present moment to either let go of the past or to create more of an energy to plan for the future. So again, the moon in Scorpio, deeply intense, deeply passionate. We want to change, we want to transform, but we're having a hard time letting go of certain elements. Maybe, we're just not ready to move on, not ready to let go of the relationship, not ready to let go of our ways of doing things, ways of thinking, ways of feeling. Maybe we're so obsessed and so bitter about some things that happened in the past that we can't let go of that energy, and that energy needs to let go of in order to have the space to create something beautiful, something brand new to fill that void, to fill that space. Regardless of what it is, we've been dealing with this since the fall of 2021, when the true nodes moved into this Taurus and Scorpio axis. Take you back to May, when we had the eclipse season on the Taurus and Scorpio axis. And again, this is acting as a precursor to what we can expect for eclipse season coming up in October on the Taurus and Scorpio axis. So the moon makes a positive aspect with Pluto, its primary ruler. This screams of aha moments. This screams of strategy. This screams of ideas. This screams of plans. This screams of transformation. This screams of light bulb moments. This is us having pops of insight, of intuition, of revelation, of realization. This is an aha moment in the psyche, an aha moment that changes our emotions. We're reframing the past. We are making peace with the present. We are planning for the future. This is screaming progress. And after today, with all these highs and lows and ups and downs, we should be focused on coming up with a plan and coming up with a strategy, and almost becoming obsessed with figuring everything out so that we have a plan in place, so that when that green flag hits down from the cosmos, we're ready to take action, we're ready to move forward. The moon, though, and again, may I remind you, every single time we take one huge, big step forward, those dark force energies like to pull us back, makes us take a couple of steps back, likes to just stomp on our hope, our dreams, our progress. And this is when this happens because the moon goes ahead and aspects Chiron, the wounded healer, that opens up all of our doubts, all of our insecurities. Do we have what it takes to move on? Are we going to be able to make peace with the past? Are we going to be able to get out of our own way? Do we really have what we need to heal the wounds within us now that are preventing us from actually moving forward? A lot of those wounds are coming in as self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem. Why do we know that? Because the moon goes ahead and semi-squares Venus. Venus is at her final degrees of Virgo, just picking ourselves apart, criticizing ourselves to the 9th degree, judging ourselves for everything that we've done, everything that we're currently doing, everything that we don't think that we can do. This is literally a tear down of the motivation, the inspiration that we just tapped into. And because Chiron is the wounded healer, we do have to tear ourselves down before we can build ourselves back up. The moon in Scorpio takes us into the depths of our darkness to show us the parts of ourselves that we've casted away, that we've repressed, that we've numbed, that we've tried to just ignore, not realizing that integration and acknowledgement of those ugly parts and dark parts of ourselves is actually how we stand in our truest power. So by analyzing where it is that we don't feel like we deserve happiness and joy in our dream and our vision, where we don't feel like we're worthy of the time and effort and energy that people are pouring into us, when we literally do not feel like we are worth it or deserve it, that is when everything starts to fall apart. And that is currently how we are going to end the day off. Because, again, Venus is at her 29th critical degree of Virgo, which means that we're trying to wrap up this particular life lesson. There's a lot of urgency. There's a lot of pressure. And we're losing sight of the motivation, the inspiration, the dream, the vision, the strategy that we had earlier on in the day. So be patient with yourself. Understand that there's going to be probably more lows today than there are highs. And that just when we gain a whole hell of a lot of clarity is when the dark force energy and our shadow selves come in to try and stomp on the light that we just shone, the power that we just embodied, and really try to rip us down in order for us to build ourselves back up in a much better, stronger way.